that's fine. I know he's kind of anxious about it, but one of those things,
He's already in the class, right?
the class hadn't started yet. It don't start until next semester. So, and it's highlighted in that letter. I asked him to prepare a letter for you guys, and that's what I sent out. So, that's all I have this week, unless you guys have questions on anything.
I don't.
I don't have anything.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Nick got us going, so we're up and streaming now.
Who else we got here?
Health Department.
Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Snyder, Linn County Health Department. Our numbers for the month of November, we served 185 clients. For our Health Advisory Board in January, we will need 2 new members. One from District 2, which I believe is supposed to be a non-healthcare member. The member currently is a healthcare, so I think that one can go either way. And then District 3 needs to be a healthcare member as well. For District 3, I do have one person that may be interested. I advise them to fill out the application on the website if they decide that they are for sure interested.
When do we need this by?
Our meeting in January is, well, technically it's a holiday. Or no, sorry, that's February. Still a holiday. I guess we'll just probably move that week to Tuesday. So January 16th.
16.
You said mine's, which one was?
Could be either or. It was a non-healthcare spot, but you had Annie Roberts in that spot, which is healthcare. So, yeah, if you could maybe think on that and maybe have anybody that may be interested fill out that
Is there somewhere
application.
they can look and get like a description of what they'll be doing or making decisions on or what they're,
If they want to reach out to me, I have a copy of the resolution that goes over what the board does. So a couple upcoming things that I'm actually going to have Danielle speak about just because she's the one teaching those events. But I do want to mention that some of our staff is going to be completing a CPR instructor class on December 21st. I believe we also have Randy and Linda that will be joining us. So we'll have some additional CPR instructors in the county. We have set a date for our community baby shower and kids fair. We've moved it up this year to April 26th in hopes that it won't be scorching hot and the kids can enjoy some more of the outside parts of that event. We just found out last week that we received an injury prevention grant. This is a mini grant. And we received funding to purchase pack and plays to promote safe sleep and life jackets. So I'm really excited about the life jackets. I think that's something that we will probably reach out to the marina and then some of our smaller lake communities and see if we can get some education and life jacket material out to them. Beyond that, there's a couple things that I would like to purchase. But I need your approval on. So I've talked before about a portable digital sign. I received some quotes from the company Vermac, which is the same brand as the sign that we have now. And I had Chris look over those to see what he thought the best option would be. And he thought that the winch option, which is like what we have now, would be the best. Just less chance of the hydraulics going out on that. So this would be something that we would move around the county and set up just to let people know about things that we have going on. And then when we are not using it, if there's another department that wants to or needs to, it would be available for them as well. So with shipping, the cost of that sign is $13,150. This would come out of our COVID grant money.
which you have to have spent by a certain
June.
date, which you've already received. I mean, you've already received the grant and everything.
We already have the grant. So how these grants work, each quarter we go in and fill out basically what you would consider a reimbursement form. We let them know what we've purchased within that quarter, and then they issue payment for that. But this has already been approved as a purchase through them.
And we've had we've had a workshop with you, or was it the Missy? We had a workshop and talked about ideas to spend this money, right?
I think
That's
that
the
was
same thing,
Missy.
right? Yeah, okay.
I think the sign will be a nice addition. I like that it's portable and it can move from spot to spot, so you can highlight the event when you're coming to our different communities.
Yeah, it'd be really nice just for like our mammogram stuff next week to have that out that says, hey, walk-ins welcome. Come to the health
Who would
department.
move this around?
We would.
What do you think? Are you wanting approval to move forward with it?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we allow the health department to purchase from Vermac the winch option portable electronic sign for $13,150 with the COVID grant funds.
I'll second. Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Do they have a warranty on it? I mean, do you have to buy an extended warranty or anything like that?
I would have to read back through here. I believe it did. I'd have to read back through their quote. I think I just printed off the email with the totals. But that's something I'll definitely look at before I purchase, and I can email you and let you know.
It'll be fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Call
You and
vote.
I are
No.
opposed, so we got a motion carries 2-1.
Okay, the next thing I have is expanding our front parking lot. We have a roughly 30 by 80 area that is gravel in front of our building that we would like to go ahead and pour some concrete. People are just funny with our parking lot. They don't like to park up front. If we have any staff parked up there, they think they can't park up there, and they park further down in the gravel, and there's holes, and it gets muddy and wet and messy. So this would also be with our COVID grant. I reached out to 3 different concrete companies. I only received quotes or bids from 2 of them. So I don't know if you want me to mention those 2 quotes or still try to get a third one.
Should we be going out for quotes without a sealed bid, or how should we be doing this?
They really probably, we're talking, what kind of a price range? Are we talking a $50,000 kind of thing, or?
How much?
I said, we're talking a $50,000 price range?
No, and I thought our handbook said that if we received 3,
If it's under $25,000.
Yeah, it is.
Then we could just get prices. We don't have to do sealed bids. That's what I was trying to get at.
yes, yeah, no, it would be.
So it's under 25. Okay.
And if you have a suggestion of a third company, I have quotes from, is it R3 or R2, Rhett Spencer, Ryan Walker, and then the third one I reached out to was out of Fort Scott, and I didn't receive an answer from them. So if you have a suggestion of a third for me to reach out to, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
So do you want her to get a third one, or do you want her to just take the 2 that she's got and work with them?
I'm good. I'm good with what she's got. I know it's difficult to find people to bid on stuff, so.
I am as well.
Okay. So are you okay with me going with the lower of the 2 bids?
So what are we talking about? Can you explain the
Can you,
project a little more?
So this is the project area, what's outlined there.
Okay.
In addition to that, we have some downspouts on our building, which they would be running underneath the concrete to get the water away from the building.
Okay.
is that the redoing the approach?
No.
Oh.
Just right here. Just
Oh,
this
gotcha.
30 by 80, 4 inches.
What are these like?
Those are shadows.
Oh, those are the shadows. Oh, I thought. Right.
Power
Yeah,
poles.
power poles. So that would expand this parking all along here. Staff typically parks back here or in the back where we expanded the
Why
garage.
don't you just expand that here to match this one?
just for cost.
So how much money do you have available on the COVID grant?
I have up to 16,000,
Okay,
and this is in our expanding infrastructure COVID grant.
that's after the sign.
Yes.
16 after the sign, you said?
Okay. And what are our quotes?
They were only $100 different. 14.8 and 14.9.
How many square feet was that? 30, what was it?
30 by 80.
400.
I mean, I can go back and ask them.
No, it's fine. I'm just doing me. Not bad. Not bad.
And before I went out for these bids, I had talked to just our county guys about it, but it was a bigger project than they felt comfortable taking on.
So after the sign, and then if we did this, how much more would you have in your COVID grant to spend?
I'd have to go back and add them up. They're 4 different grants. They're all COVID grants, but they're 4 different COVID grants. I mean, I have them budgeted. But I could go back and give you final numbers.
So your other, we had the classroom.
We have the classroom, we have salary, we have benefits, we have an exam table. I mean, there's several things in each one.
And just to be clear, this is money that's already been approved, you've already received, and we're just trying to find,
Well, we have to pay for it and then they reimburse us the money. But it's already been included in my budget I mean, it's there, it's accounted for. Just submitting a receipt and a dollar amount.
both bids, have you looked at them, the description you wanted, they both match, meet it?
Yes.
Can we have her go ahead and read each one of them out by name, or how do we want to do that?
She can, that'd
Are
be
you good
fine.
with that?
Just the dollar amount?
Yeah,
Who did what?
who did what?
So Ryan Walker was 14.8 and Rhett Spencer was 14.9.
Spencer, what was the other?
Ryan Walker,
No, but what was Spencer's first name or?
Rhett, R-H-E-T-T.
And so your recommendation is Ryan Walker?
Yes.
And these are funds that we're not going to get if we don't spend them.
Correct. Yep.
Is there match on it?
Nope. You don't use it, you lose it.
And by doing this thing going to affect anything down the line, make us cause us to spend more money, like the airport type thing?
Not
No.
that I know of, no.
You guys got any info?
I'm good with it.
I make a motion that we accept Ryan Walker's bid at $14,800 for a 30 by 80 concrete parking lot at the health department.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 2-1.
All right, the last thing I have is just an update on our classroom. Randy Page came over and looked at our project, gave me a couple suggestions on maybe how to lower the cost. He was going to run some numbers for me. I don't have those back yet. And then I also asked Brandon Johnson if he'd be willing to rerun some numbers, eliminating things like the drop ceiling, using the existing lighting that's there, just splitting it apart. I haven't heard back from him yet, but his original bid did expire a week or so ago. So that's where I'm at on that. Just waiting. So if you don't have any questions for me, Danielle's going to come up and just talk about some of the things that she's working on and will be teaching for us.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you, Amanda.
Good morning, Danielle Casey, Nurse Manager, Linn County Health Department. All right, so the first thing that I am going to be teaching is called BAM. It's Becoming a Mom classes. It's not just for new moms, it's for any moms out there, their significant other, siblings, they can all come. It's a 6-week course, 2-hour classes. It is free. There are incentives given throughout the classes, kind of to get them to come back to finish the whole course. This will start January 4th. If everything goes well, I'm going to look into expanding them to other towns. So instead of just offering here at the health department, I can go to Lacine, Mound City, different areas like that, depending on the turnout for that. Currently, there are no other prenatal classes offered in our county unless they travel to the city. So I think this is a huge asset for our county, definitely. The second one is the diabetes prevention program. This is also a free program that I'll be doing. I'm going to teach that. It's a 1-year program. First 6 months, we'll meet weekly for an hour. The second 6 months, we'll meet monthly for an hour. Plan is to start it in April, times to be determined. I haven't set those up quite yet. It's a possibility that we could bill insurance later on once we have our feet wet and everything like that. It is a CDC recognized program. 1 in 3 Americans do have prediabetes, which blood sugar is between 100 to 125 fasting. So that gives you an idea. And then without weight loss and physical activity, you can get type 2 diabetes with having pre-diabetes within 5 years. So that kind of gives you, in a nutshell, how important it is. Last thing is I will have the mobile mammogram coach here from Diagnostic Imaging on December 12th. It will be at the health department. The bus will be parked out there 9 to 4. They're 15-minute appointments, so they don't take too long. I think the closest mammogram you can get is in Fort Scott. So this will be completely local, great for our employees. Insurance is accepted. 1 in 8 women will end up with breast cancer in their lifetime. It does need to be 12 months since your last mammo. That is one thing that Diagnostic Imaging stresses. No orders are needed. There's 2D and 3D mammograms on this bus. So that's kind of what I have going right now. I'm working on some other things and I can update you guys as I go.
Sounds good.
Any questions?
Nope.
No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Sean?
Sean West, Public Works. I didn't see it on the agenda, but I believe we've got a order vacating Elm Street scheduled for today.
Is that scheduled for today? I didn't,
Is that the one in Centerville?
I thought it was next. It probably is today. I don't even have it with me. I didn't even. Thank you.
Is that the one in Centerville that we own property all around it?
Right. We own property all around it and, we published our intent to vacate. Anybody that had a, concern about it was supposed to come here today and express that concern. And then if you are ready today or next week to move forward, we'll do a resolution vacating it or an order vacating it. I guess we got the order right here, don't we?
Yes, that's the one you had
That's what-
previously prepared.
So I guess the thing to do is to ask if there's anybody that has any comment about that, vacation.
Is there anybody that has any comment about the Elm Street in Centerville? No?
Then here's the order if you're ready to do it.
Sean, and why are we doing this?
This is just an oversight that it hadn't been vacated prior. You'll see that our senior center, AMR barn, and fire station, as well as road grader, are parked in that area. There is no road currently there or through traffic way. And
Our
this,
building sits on the alley almost, does it not?
correct, and this goes straight up the side of the hill from 1077. This is not an area that we would ever intend to put a roadway.
So we have a resolution number or
It's just an order. There's no resolution number on it. It's just a road order.
I'll make the motion that we vacate Elm Street in Centerville.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the next thing I had for you, you asked me to reach out to the fiber installers south of the power plant in reference to questions you had about the installation of that fiber and those connections that some, I went out and looked at it with Darren. Some of those appear to be either at the edge or within 12 inches or better into our roadway. I reached out to Burns and Lantel is actually the contractor that is putting that fiber in. And I assessed 3 different questions for them. First of all, the connections come from west of our county, enter into our county, go through Centerville, south of Lacine, and then north as it turns up into the Evergy plant. Then there's another project going north from there into Miami County. This construction is interconnectivity between the plants and infrastructure for Evergy. It has no bearing or anything to do with the proposed solar projects in that area. The second,
They're connecting Wolf Creek to Lacine to Iatan.
I cannot tell you, I assume that, but the third part of that, I don't have the diagrams and connections to.
Okay.
So
Before they started and came to the county, did they have to come in and talk to us about this? Did they pull a permit to do this?
yes, it's right here.
Why did we allow it into the road, I guess is my question.
Okay. Well, as I said, I went for 3 different explanations, and one of those explanations, I was unable to speak to Lantel, which is the contractor, but as I looked at the project and looked at their engineering, it appears that our roadways and the mapping and GPS, our roadways may have shifted side to side, and that this is them trying to keep it in the right of way as we have it documented or mapped. The only way to confirm that is to speak to the contractors, which I was unable to do. I only was able to speak to the engineers. The next question I asked them was the connections and to find out whether they would inhibit our road itself and or any maintenance. The project called for each one of those connections and lines to be buried 36 inches below grade. And the engineer went back and looked at the records for me, said they're not hitting rock in any of those areas, and the connections along that roadway are being buried at 40 to 42 inches.
So the connection's an access point for them. So is there gonna be a box there?
No,
They're splicing
splicing.
fiber is what's going on.
So those connections and the conduit are 40 to 42 inches below grade, which is well below anything that we would hit during maintenance. They've also installed a tracer wire on the project in order to relocate it so it could be accurately located if needed in the future.
Okay.
Along with that, while speaking with them, their original burial permit called for that project to be completed 9/29 of '23. Obviously, they intend to come back and complete those connections. While speaking with them about these concerns, they did send me an email requesting extensions. The project was put on hold last quarter, or the last quarter of the year, to wrap up other projects, but will be resuming in January, and they are aiming for the end of March, which will put it at the 12-month mark for the completion of the project.
So that's the same when it goes along Bush City Road to
Yep.
Bush City Center. They still get a connection sticking up there too.
Yeah. 1700 Road up south of Parker. They have the fiber pulled, though, correct? That's the way it looked from the pictures
Yes.
and when I drove by.
Yes,
So, I mean, they had made some progress.
correct.
But now they've stopped all work because their permit's done.
No, they stopped to complete other projects. Now they're requesting to extend their original permit, which was supposed to be completed 9/23, I think it was 9/27/23. They're asking to extend that to the end of March of '24 so that they can make those connections and bury those connections.
So are you asking us right now to extend it?
That's what I'm doing now. And my understanding, because I've never been asked for an extension on this, would be if you approve the extension, I would document it and then contact the company and tell them what their new time limits are.
Yeah, you'll need to approve the extension since you granted the permit in the first place. Unless in the future, if when you grant permits, you authorize Sean to grant extensions.
Should they have reached out to us if it wasn't done?
They should have, but apparently they didn't realize or.
Until I reached out to them, I think they stopped progress at some point, and then we're going to deal with the extension when they resumed the project or as they resumed it. But as I reached out to them, it was a opportune time for them to address the extension issue.
So what is we don't have a process for re-permitting? I mean, what's it entail?
Re-permitting,
Do we sign a paper form and they go on? I mean, or is there any
Yeah,
regulation?
he just notes on the paper that it's been extended to such and such a date by a vote of the commission on such and such a date.
and then I'd reach out to the company and give them those new dates.
This is rare for us to do an extension because most of the time when somebody wants a burial permit, they're wanting to get it in yesterday, and so.
But this is also a project going clear across the
Right.
county, across multiple counties.
That's what sets it apart, so.
So is there a fee for re-permitting?
For the extension, I'm unaware of one. This is a very large project that I believe we granted one fee to permit the
One
whole
fee for the
project.
whole project, and so there's not normally there's no fee in the fee schedule for extension.
And we're wanting to extend till March of 2024.
To the end of March.
It's approved.
I'd extend it to April 2024.
April.
So do you have the extension all made up?
No, I would adjust that on the original documents. I wouldn't make anything new for it except an email to the company advising them of the new dates.
Was this 2023-02 on the original?
That's correct.
How do you feel, Jim?
I talked to the county commissioners west of this here, and that line goes from the power plant. They have a right of way, and we allowed them to go in there road right away. We just I talked to one out west, and he kind of wondered after the fact why we did that. And they did the same thing. It allowed us to we allowed them to go in our right of way, but they already had right of way for an overhead power line through there. And the commissioner and I talked, he said, I really don't know why we did that either after the fact, because we allowed them to go into our right of way. Could create us trouble when we cleaned ditches or whatever, when they already had a right of way clear across there. It was been out through the middle of pastures, but it was there.
I don't have any answer to that other than to say that there may be a distinction between a right of way for a power line and a burial right of way. I don't know. I couldn't address that. I don't know.
I don't know if we did.
What they do in the end? They just
They let the same thing happen that we did. I mean, this was back when we did it.
So they've already started the project. They've already buried all their conduit. I think we need to let them finish their project.
We probably ought to keep a closer eye on the tail end of it though, to make sure that in our permitting system, that if they don't stay to where their permit is and just dragging us on like they have, and I think they have clear through there, we probably ought to put something in there.
I think we have a policy problem, in my opinion. I guess they did nothing wrong. Maybe I think it's on us. I think we have a policy problem there.
What we need is what they call a tickler file. And we're doing that increasingly on zoning stuff or conditional use permits, but we put something in the calendar to remind us when the permit expires, so we can reach out to them and require renewal or documentation that they've been completed.
Well, it's just like going up that Yancey Road or whatever, they don't know what we've got lined up to there. And, they've tied us up with cables sticking out in the road for months longer than our. And I just say we probably ought to put something in there to make sure that don't happen again.
Like repercussions. I mean, why have dates if there's no repercussion? I'm not going to meet your date if there's not a repercussion to meet it. You know what I mean? Like your date's irrelevant to me if I pull a permit and there's, I don't know, no fee on the end of it. That's. All right, so what exactly does this motion need to say, or?
Only to extend BP 2023-02 from its original September 23 date to April of 24.
I'll make that motion.
Is there any way we can get them to come in here and talk to us?
The engineers or the contractors?
Whoever's responsible?
I can reach out to the engineers and ask them if they or the contractors would be willing to come in and answer questions.
What questions do you have, Danny?
That we just keep getting taken advantage of in our county. And everything's happened right underneath our nose and we know nothing about it. And
Usually happens if we have to get a pretty big snowfall. One that would be enough to cover those up, snowplow kind of fall and break those something negative.
That's their liability, not ours. Yeah, that's because they have put something in our road. So if it causes damage, it would be their responsibility.
Can I say something? We live, we own land all along 1800 Road, and we trapped cattle down there a week ago, and the cattle and the horses kept stepping into those holes. They might need to check on how well they're backfilling. We have to be really careful horseback, because where those were laid, the cattle and horses were going in like no wasn't backfilled correctly. Just
Jim, how do you feel?
I think we have a problem with our permitting, just like that. Like they blew us off when they had a deadline. And I said that, and they didn't come back to us. We had to reach out to them.
And we have nothing in our policy that talks about re-permitting or extensions or anything like that.
Not that I'm aware of.
How could we do this, Gary? I mean, do we have to, us being behind, I guess, in time? I mean, can we not issue this and then,
My recommendation would be to issue this, but then to fix the policy so it doesn't happen again. But that's, I mean, what are you gonna do? You go tell them you can't finish this project? I mean,
um,
I mean, we want to
that's
finish.
what they tell me when I don't hit deadlines. I mean, I get sued usually, but
That's, you guys ought to make that call.
did you mention that some graders hit some of them one time? Or was somebody mentioned that last week?
I'm,
I thought graders might have hit it.
I'm unaware of anything of that nature.
We have a motion on the floor. I'll second. But I would like to see this stuff stop happening underneath our nose like that, and us not taking it. I mean, how can I say this without making it sound about?
How can we put anything in this deal here to where they got the deadline that they have to come back to us again? I mean, is it,
I think, yeah, you can instruct Sean to tell them if they're not, if they're not done by the end of this one, they need to come back and explain why not.
can we put any teeth in it to see that it is? I mean,
Again, I don't know what you can do in term, we don't have any setup for fines or anything like that.
Why not? I mean, why don't we?
Well, it's just never been
I mean, they're
something,
gonna make probably millions off of this line, and here we are
it's never been
making my
something,
life hard.
it's never been something that's been needed in the past. 'Cause like I say, normally, your installers are anxious to get it in the ground because they want to get the project done. And so, it's just, I don't believe it's ever come up in the years that I've been here that the issue was they didn't get done. It's usually they get it done before they get the permit. It's what, is the big problem. So this is the first time it's ever really arisen.
Well, and if you'd like, I'll go back to our permit process and bring you a adjustment in it, similar to our building permits, which have a 12-month expiration date, and put the expiration on there, or requirements for extensions, so you can approve those, so that we can be clear with them when they contact us that,
well, we're doing them quite a favor by letting them go in our right of way, because they don't have to go to each individual landowner and get wherever they're going. So it's a benefit to who we're allowing to go in. And looking down the road, it's going to create us some grief somewhere along the line, whether it be a bridge or something. If we choose to put another tube in or something, it can create us troubles down the road. So
If nothing else, hold up the project while we
Right.
wait for them to fix
well,
it.
they've got to go back and change it. Sometimes it's hard to get them to change it when you need to too. So,
Luckily, we don't know if we have anything happening in those areas, so we don't know if we're going to be held up. So,
right.
I mean, I know it's not their fault, but I think we have to really get on top of our policy here. So that's why I'm made the second to carry on. So we have motion been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
the next thing I had for you is information. Our Pleasanton mechanic has looked at the 112 road tractor. This is a solid waste tractor, and we're going to be talking next week, I believe the 16th. That'll be week after next, correct?
Today's the 4th, so.
Okay. In a couple of weeks, we'll be talking with Terry Malini, the engineer, that will be giving us the overall of the projects and the engineering projects at the landfill. But this road tractor has been evaluated, and the walk around on this
What do you mean a road tractor? Like a
Semi.
semi, They determine there's a lot tractor and a road tractor. I'm sorry. One's used only on the lot and one's used on the roadway. There's a list, but the list in just the walk around is cost prohibitive in putting this money towards this equipment. I expect somewhere around the same time frame as the 2-week mark to have the 3 to 5 year equipment plan completed. The foremans are working with mechanics to get me the new prices to put in and plug in those numbers. But I did want to let you know, we had originally in our first plan budgeted for this, but this is going to be an issue that we're going to have to address probably very quickly. So, and in that special equipment fund, if I'm not mistaken, we've got $334,000. There's more than enough to handle a purchase of this nature. But I did want to let you know that as we got that equipment plan or list to you, that this will probably be the first item on the list. And here are the items.
Is it one of the roll-off trucks or an actual box trailer semi type truck?
It would be used for box trailers, recycle.
Didn't we just purchase something for that here a year or two ago, maybe 3?
3 would be beyond me. And
Or maybe we purchased for another barn and then we put one down there?
it's quite possible. The newest one I know of is Lacine, or the most roadworthy is Lacine. So, but that may predate me being in this position. I'll bring back to you in more detail when we meet with Tony and go over the solid waste and the other issues. While we're talking about solid waste, I think you may have gotten information or should have got information that we're having issues at Parker with the compactor. This is a motor or a power issue. I'll be reaching out to try to find someone to come in and look at that, but it has caused us issues because it's pulling power away from other equipment such as the radio tower and things up there. And we're looking into it. Chris has done quite a bit of diagnostics to try to zero in on the problem, but we're at the point where I'm going to have to pull someone in to look at the actual motor and or equipment at that site. The docks from Evergy have been moved to the park. Our next plan at this point will be to stage it on the ground in the configuration that we would like to see it in, and then get a parts list up. Obviously, bumpers and other things are going to be different because it was in a long straight stretch. We're using it in a different manner, but we'll be able to lay that out and get a parts list and see what the actual price to recoup that and to pull the old dock will be. CDL, we have one of the two persons in CDL training testing their permit for the first half of their training this week. I expect that sometime next week, the other party will take their written test and we'll move on to behind the wheel and walk around inspections for the second half of the training with it. And at this point, that should be until I believe it's 11 when BP 2023-08, when we have an engineer coming in to speak on that. I believe I'm done unless you have any questions for me.
The government, the old judicial center, where are we at on that?
The last I spoke to Randy, they were putting up the wainscoting and had to pull down the wainscoting and return it because there were blemishes below the finish on that wainscoting.
Oh, and the contractor would pull it out and put it, say that again?
The supply of wainscoting that they picked up, Randy noticed blemishes below the finish surface. They were installing that, working on a few other projects around the building, but he did have to return that because he was unsatisfied with the blemishes on the new product that he'd picked up.
So who pays for the time?
It's returned and we'll get new materials.
I understand that, but are we paying for put it up twice?
No. And then they're also looking at pulling out some cabinetry that was around the old metal detector as you came in the door, giving width. He and I discussed flooring this last week as well, and what we have for materials to replace the flooring as we pull those cabinets and in the other areas out. And we sent maintenance over there to look at a issue about water coming through one of the ceiling tiles, and we believe we've isolated it down to the front HVAC unit that's above the bathrooms, and it may have had a issue there. I know he did connect a line in the one above the safe as well that had a slow leak on it. So
Can we get a for sure date on that? I mean,
for sure date on
we'll
it.
be 100% done so we can give it to these ladies and gentlemen that are trying to move over and get a plan together.
As we get closer, probably within, I would say, if they projected it to be the first of the year, I would say within 2 weeks, we should be able to do that as they get closer to the completion. I don't know that they can give that to us now, but as we get further along, I would expect somewhere in a couple of weeks to be able to give you a good timeline.
When we hired him, was there any expectations? I mean, did we give him a date to hit, to be done?
I don't know that we had a completion date to this project.
Didn't we talk about at the time that we were trying to get it done this year to make it work within budget, but we budgeted some for it for next year, thinking that it could carry over?
Remember,
Okay. That's how I remember it.
So just after the first of the year is what we can tell people?
As I said, if you'd like me to reach out again, I can try to firm that up, but I would recommend it be a week or two down the road so they get further towards the completion and give an accurate answer. I'd hate to give an answer and then miss the mark. If should be mid-month, within a couple of weeks of completing the project, that would probably be a good time to put a pin on the calendar.
It just irritates me how we do that. We have no expectations for people that we hire. You know, if they don't hit a deadline, we take the blunt end of it and we deal with it and get angry people when I don't know, that's weird to me. I don't, that's not how construction works. And I know, I'm not saying that, I know you're just kind of throwing it, but
I understand.
there's gotta be repercussions for not hitting a date. Cause I mean, I'm getting phone calls and getting yelled at. I mean, that's worth something, right? I mean, that's.
We could have made a decision quicker. That would have helped speed up the process.
I think that's irrelevant right now. I'm talking about contract wise. I mean,
Well, we did go through.
I'm just thinking about what we can, I'm just thinking about, what can we actually affect? What can we change?
expectations. I mean,
Okay.
there's no rush to get them in there, and I'm sure that these ladies are wanting to move, and I mean, they have to put a plan together, and they're just kind of sitting there idle. I mean, I don't know if they have to, apply for or license to move the addresses or how that works. I don't have no clue, but it's kind of like the jail. We have expectation, we have deadlines. If you don't hit it, you got damage fees. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know we can't run it like
That was $20 million.
I understand that, but we make our lives kind of hard.
We're trying to patch this one together and get it done as cheaply and reasonably as we can. Are we not? I mean, isn't that what we were looking at, Jim?
That was kind of our idea.
I mean, you're gonna take a few more
But you still always have
punches that way.
expectations for a project.
I agree.
I mean,
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to talk through it with you.
anyway, yeah. I'm not
Commissioner,
saying nothing to you, Sean. I know
I
you have.
completely understand. Commissioners, do you have anything else for me?
I don't.
I don't.
Thank you. I'll be back with the other bear permit at 11.
Thank you, Sean.
It looks like we have Lisa and Pam for kind of right on time.
Yeah, I think part of what they want to talk about, we'll want an executive session for personnel, and there may be some open meeting discussion also, but
How many minutes you need?
I'll make a motion that we go in executive session for personnel for 10 minutes with Lisa Calstat and Pam Cannon.
Second it.
Motion been moved, second, all in favor?
Aye.
So we've got a little time now. If we got anything we need to get in the next few minutes, but then we've got an executive session scheduled at 10:30 with an outside attorney that's coming in to talk to us. So. I guess right at the moment, I just let you know, I was corresponding with Joey McLiney this morning. And, like I said, I already had to approve Danny signing some paperwork. Joey's planning on coming next week to kind of give a summary on everything with the bond. He was tied up with another issue today and couldn't come, but I do have him on the agenda for next week.
We're a little bit, Forrest.
I don't think he's here yet, is he? No,
Okay.
but he should be coming in about 15 minutes.
Do you have anything, Gary, right off? Do we need,
No, I don't. I don't know, what's this burial permit information, is that?
This is the one it's actually the road crossing, the overhead lines that's been postponed, and I think Sean's got either the engineer or the company coming in to discuss that.
are they here? Is it
I
this guy? No.
doubt it, because they're not scheduled till 11.
Nope.
And then you still have public comment.
You guys have nothing? Either one of you guys?
I don't think I really have anything else we need.
Sean, you got something?
No, I'm
Oh.
grabbing.
All right, well, we'll open it up right now for public comment. If you have something, come up and state your name and what you're here for. If you want to share with us. No public comment? All right. Looks like our next item is Forest Roads and not till 10:30. If no one has anything, you guys want to recess for 15 minutes? Is there something you guys want to discuss to take up? You got anything?
I don't have anything.
David, were you going to say
Are
something?
you here for something specific about the? Sir?
Solar.
Oh,
Well, I'll make a motion that we adjourn until, or we adjourn and recess until 10:30.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Look at that, I got a 7:02. Hi, Daniel, solar review. Good job on the solar panels.
Danny, you want to work on something off on the other stuff?
Yeah, let me use the restroom real quick.
Meetings do we get to go to? There's, is there time one night or?
The K Camp and K Work meetings are tomorrow evening, like 5:30, I think.
Where the dinners.
No, there's, Lee Tractor, I think, usually has a meal on the second night. But that's the vendor showcases that afternoon, and then they provide kind of a buffet meal then.
So that's one I need to go to. They work.
If, were you the voting member? Or,
I think he was on one of them, I was an alternate.
yeah, and then I'm like the second alternate on something too. That was the, I have to look back at what we sent you.
I don't remember either.
But yeah, I mean, you're welcome to go to them, but I don't think you'd have to unless you're the voting member. I'm just reading this, Danny. I think maybe I'll make a copy and have you sign 2 copies of all of it. 'Cause at one point they're telling me that email the copy and that's in the original, but then it says 2 copies.
No, sir. What's that? No. I might see somebody out there standing. I probably heard it, but don't know what's there.
I think it's.
Were they? No, I'll be on. Okay. That's large. I'll see what I can find them up with. I don't want to talk about it. Don't bother me to call somebody if I want to do something. I just
Okay, first page, looks like it's your signature on both of those. And the top line on both of those. I'll go back and adjust.
You know, I never thought I'd be famous or have to write my signature, so I don't have a good one.
Okay, looks like, yeah, I've got a line for you on both of those. And German line on both of those. That one appears to be me. So I don't think I need you to sign those pages. That's me. There you go, that's scanned in and sent and mailed and everything before I leave town.
I'll look there. I even know some guys farmers.
And that one looks like it's me. All right, I think that's it. When I get back to the office, I'll scan all that in and email them and put the original in mail. Yeah, Joey's down there. Gonna be in meeting.
Did that take all day to do?
I don't think it actually took the time. Probably much of 11.
I like you get kicked out.
Yeah. Time to drop by and have me sign some stuff that day and set it up for 1:30.
So it's like just like a bid war, like for
Yeah,
the
I think
bank.
it was, yeah.
That sounds sick.
So I came in.
Did you get anything?
Yeah. I came in, had lunch, and then met him at 1:30 and went back out and this more after that.
I killed a 8-point with a side by side, hit him going 50 mile an hour, didn't do nothing side by side, not one thing.
So, Saturday, he was a little excited. I got his over while he was with me.
Oh, really?
He was right in there. He helped me drag it. Helped me fuel practice. He was digging in there.
He's never shot one before?
He never.
Oh, really?
He spent all day Saturday.
When did you start? Is it really, what, isn't there something around Christmas? Or is that? Is he from Tulsa?
No, he's.
Oh. Oh, I got you. Okay, not, okay.
I think I was.
Do you have land that you just hunted on forever? Do you have land around here that you just always hunt on?
I've got a friend that I didn't recently, but I was never decided to go to music. I don't
Is it hard to, I remember you had the conversation raw attacks, is it still really difficult? Like, it's sure how.
Well, yeah,
There are some people. I just.
Not saying it's
Airbnb or whatever.
The reason this policy is so it's just well, we don't want, yeah, it's a policy, or it's a practice not to have. If you feel like he already took this reliance on it, I mean, that would be a justification. And it's not exercising.
How many acres?
I want to pass.
No problem.
I think it's justifiable either way.
Okay. Thank you, Gary.
She looks very upset.
Yeah, I think so. Don't know. See if I can-
Is he here yet?
Don't think so. Eric's trying to hold on here for 5 minutes.
The burial permit guy's they're not here either, huh?
I don't think so.
You want to, I mean, we could probably have, we need to keep Richard close with the discussion on the, all right, our time's up on our recess. We're going to reconvene. I think we're still waiting to see. We got some people on the schedule that we're trying to figure out.
I think Gary's trying to call him, so.
Just one thing we can talk about, the employee dinner, which is the 12th, right?
Yeah, so that's, be a week from tomorrow.
Is there anything we need to do? Do we need to show up and help?
You know, I don't know that we're really gonna need a lot of help. We'll probably want maybe some help setting up or tearing down tables and cleaning, but I've got, Vicky is gonna do a lot of the cooking and my wife's gonna help, and then some of my office, and I'll be over there most of the morning. And we thought we'd probably talk to Sean about getting maintenance or somebody to come over and help with tables, but I would think probably some of the cleanup would be probably more of the help we need, just getting everything, you know, floors swept and stuff put away. I think we're in pretty good shape on getting the meal ready, and I know Rose is working on like certificates, and she's got the prizes for people that hit different years, and so we're still working on everything, but I think we're doing okay on it.
He's here, he's trying to find his way into the building.
Jason, I know one time we talked about that, this employee or the survey.
Yep.
Plan.
I haven't gotten anything done.
No, okay. Just on the list. So something we'll just kind of focus on next year for next year.
I think that would be good. Budget season kind of got in the way, and then I haven't picked it back up, so, you know, all falls on me.
Just maybe just a little more information for you. We did finally get our audit back last week.
Oh.
I've been waiting for months to get that. I still don't really know why it took them so long, but we had wanted it to turn in before the bond issue, and we didn't get it in time. So Janet and I have been talking, and we're looking at a different audit firm for next year, and I got a proposal from someone else that I think Janet knows more about him than I do, but has done some other counties around the area. So we're looking at probably switching to a different firm.
I think that would be advisable.
It sounds like it's still going to be pretty late in the year before he can actually do the audit, but he said that he would have it done in a couple of weeks and back to us. So at least we'd have a better timetable on what's going to happen with it that way. So it's a little easier to plan.
How long have we been with our current one, and how often do we switch auditors?
We had not switched in the whole time I'd been here until this year, and that company quit doing
So this was a new one.
audits. So they gave all their old records to the company we used this year, and they honored the pricing that we had with the old company. So we just kind of fell into that one for a year, but I mean, we were intending on looking around a little bit anyway. So we do have another one that I've got a proposal from for next year's audit. Also working with a different consulting company starting this month on benefits. And it's back with a person that we worked with with the company we've had, and she left that company about 3 years ago, went with another consulting firm. So I've been talking to her for the last few months, and we decided to go ahead and switch. Same cost. We believe we're going to get more services with this one than we did the old one. And I've already been talking to her about looking for bids on health insurance next year. She thinks she can find us some other networks and other companies that would bid to give us just as good a coverage and networks.
Some savings maybe.
Hopefully save some money on the health insurance. So
That would be nice.
So we're looking at that. We'll probably sometime this spring request bids on it. So just working on those things, trying to look for some ways to save and still take care of our employees.
So you said you wanted that done before the bond issue. Would we got a better deal with that if?
I don't know. I know Joey kept asking me, we had to do a rating meeting with S&P Global Ratings.
Right. We came in at an A+.
Issue. We still got an A+, but that was one of their comments in the rating was the lack of an audit didn't help anything, but they still rated us A+, so we came out all right anyway. But it really kind of put us in a bind on getting this done. And Joey said that he thought we probably would have had 2 or 3 more people bid if we'd have had that audit in already. Now, whether it would have been a better rate or not, I don't know. So how long are we thinking on this one?
20 minutes, which should be fine.
So
I'll make a motion to go to executive session for legal advice with Forrest Rhodes and Gary Thompson for 15.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Man, right here.
I actually put it in my motion by the time it started, it'll be 10:40.
No action. Looks like our next item on the list is a little early, the BP 2023-08, which is the burial permit. Is Sean in here?
I haven't had contact with our party yet. I'll step out and make some phone calls, but I expected them to be here by now. We have 11 o'clock time frame scheduled. So if you want to grab another agenda item, I will step out and get a report as to where we're at.
Okay. We'll come back to that. Looks like we got Richard and Charlene on the agenda next for zoning reg discussions. Whichever one you guys want to come up and.
Good morning, Commissioners. After the meeting last week, Commissioner McCullough asked me if I might talk a little bit about this whole project from my point of view, which is the chairman of the Planning Commission. And I was one of the people of two, Charlene, who comes next, will talk. We were the two that voted against the one-year moratorium. What I want to say today is that I'm not necessarily opposed to that moratorium. I felt when I made my vote that we could keep this with the Planning and Zoning Commission, have 2 or 3 or maybe more meetings and find a solution and not have to spend a whole year at it. But I'm okay with what we've got here. We've got up to a year to really work this thing out and figure out how to move forward with whatever we do. Many of you may know I spent 42 years in higher ed administration and about 10 at the executive level at universities like KU and the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. One of the things I learned along the way is when there's a lot of controversy and a lot of varying opinions, find the ground where everybody can stay, where everybody can reside. Find the common ground. So that's what I've tried to do with this. And so as I thought about this week and earlier too, well, what's our common ground? So I went back and looked at the vision statement for the comprehensive plan. That was what myself and several others around this community worked on for a couple of years before we got to the part where we needed new code. But we came up with some values. And I think that when we find this common ground that I think we need to find, we need to look at these 5, 6 values. The values are strengthening our existing infrastructure and community assets, protect the natural beauty and open space that make our county special. And that's a good one. I mean, that's a key one when you talk about these values. Promote a healthy lifestyle for residents in all ages and abilities. Coordinate growth with cities and lake communities to foster regional mentality. And then pursue multiple revenue sources to support the county services. I think this is a really important one that we have to keep in mind as we find this common ground that we all need to stand on. And last, incorporate community engagement in all aspects of the planning. So the two of these values that really drive us is let's keep the county as beautiful as it always has been and we ever want it to. But let's not forget that we need revenue sources to keep this county going. I tell you, I remember as a high schooler looking out my bedroom window and over by Blue Mound, watching the power plant smokestack being built. I could see the progress on that every day. And I tell you what, when we got done with that project, the roads got better, the ditches got better, things were better in Linn County. We took advantage of a revenue source. we have a revenue source here that I think is pretty important to the county. If the surrounding counties are any indication on this, this thing could be worth over $1 million a year to the county. And I think we need not discount that. It has been talked a lot about, but I think we need not discount how important that may be to the progress and the vitality of the county. So that's my main point. We need to find the common ground, and I think within the year we will be able to do that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rich.
Any questions?
I do not. Charlene?
My viewpoint is a little bit different than Rich's. I appreciate his because I think that's the way to look at it, and I look at it that way too. But anyhow, I'm Charlene Sims. I'm from Parker. First, I want to point out that I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for the planning board. As a citizen and a longtime member of the Planning Commission, I want to express my concern for where the county is headed with the moratorium for solar and even the prohibition with wind turbines. Having been on the Planning Commission for over 20 years, I can tell you that because of statutes passed by the Kansas legislature, Linn Countyans continue to have less control over what happens within its borders. When I first was appointed to the commission, feedlots could be regulated more stringently than they are now, including the setbacks from residences. But that changed, and the county has very little control over where feedlots are placed in the county. Because of the legislature, the Planning Commission cannot question the environmental impact on the land, wildlife, and real estate values. It takes a major problem for a feedlot to be checked, even for polluting waterways. The state legislature made this decision. Someday, when western Linn County, an area that used to have beautiful native grasses and rolling hills like the Flint Hills, looks like Dodge City or Garden City, people will ask what happened. So, about 5 years ago, the Planning Commission discovered we could not control where cell towers are placed. I think Gary Thompson talked with you last week about the F4G transmission line being similar to cell towers. We used to be able to regulate cell towers so that there wasn't one every mile along the road. Now, when cell tower developers apply for a permit, we cannot question why they want to stop using one cell tower and build one right down the road because of the powerful communications lobby in the legislature. Our hands have been tied. Now we have wind turbines and solar farms coming to the counties across Kansas. Heartland Rural Electric Cooperative, which serves all of us who live outside city limits, is wanting to build a relatively small solar field like it has done in other counties. The reason we are having a debate on solar is that Evergy sent out a request for proposals to solar development companies for larger installations. Whether you are in favor or opposed to solar and wind energy, the trend across Kansas has been greater reliance on those two sources of energy, along with natural gas plants that can come online quickly and produce less carbon dioxide. Representatives from Clearway and EDF have said to an existing energy grid already developed for the power plant is a main factor in placing solar installations near the plant. Evergy has already announced plans to shut down the Lacine plant by closing down one unit and then another over the course of the next few years. For years, county commissioners have worried what would happen when the plant shuts down because of the impact it will have on county services. It is largely because of that plant that county property owners pay less than 40% of what it takes for our current services. In a best-case scenario, Evergy will replace the current coal-fired plant with one that operates on natural gas. But as usual, the company is tight-lipped about its plans. In any case, the current proposals for solar farms will provide tax revenue for the county and as well as two of the county's 3 school districts over the long term. The county is in the position to negotiate a payment in lieu of taxes from solar developers to make up for the lost tax revenue. That could also include benefits for school districts. Over the long term, Clearway's installation will help the Prairie View School District, which has benefited tremendously from the revenue produced by the current power plant. The other solar farm project proposed by EDF will help the Pleasanton School District taxes. But because people don't want to see solar panels, the Pleasanton area does not get that benefit. The county has an opportunity now to benefit from solar installations, and the moratorium could convince solar developers to go east of the state line. But it also could push Evergy to put pressure on the legislature to enact statutes that would give Linn County less control. My concerns grew over the past 2 weeks when the commission decided to hassle Evergy over a transmission line to Missouri. As Jason asked Danny last week, do you think you can stop them from having solar farms in Missouri? In researching where the proposed solar farms will be, only 2 of the families that have been pushing to stop solar farms live in that area and would be directly affected. If this had been presented to the planning board when a conditional use permit was applied for, current regulations cover many of their concerns, and conditions more than likely would have been added to the permits to cover all of their concerns. But their intentions are not to work on regulations that will cover their issues like setbacks, endangered wildlife, fire control, etc. Their intention is to keep all solar out of Linn County. Their intention is no secret to anyone. Their purpose in the moratorium is to give them more time because they know that applications for conditional use permits are close at hand. So why go through with the farce of setting up a committee that will waste the time of the planning and zoning director, Darren Wilson, for months with no results except that they hope that the solar companies will go away? Evergy is not going to go away. Neither is the push for solar and wind energy. The proposed solar farms would have picked up a large part of that loss as the power plant closes down. There is nothing else to cover that. And no, I don't believe it is a myth, like some solar opponents say, that the power plant is closing down someday. As for seeing the solar panels, the proposed solar farms were going to be located west of 69 Highway to the state line, not east, like the maps on the solar opponents, like the maps the solar opponents have shown people. The solar farms were not even going to be seen from 69 Highway. Solar opponents have continued to make false claims about noise. Solar farms do not emit as much noise as 69 Highway. For those people living within a mile or so of the highway, the sound is no excuse. In fact, there are no findings that would stand up in court to put a moratorium on solar, and probably not even on wind turbines. When the planning board voted to prohibit wind turbines, no member presented any finding to prohibit wind turbines. Those who voted against it just said they did not want to see them in the county. Mr. Kopp kindly translated that into language about the scenic beauty of Linn County, and the commissioners went along with that. About the planning board, I have seen many people come and go over the time I've been on the planning board, but I've never seen the lack of participation that we have from at least 2 of our new members. Their absence has been particularly troubling during the time the county is going through the process of developing its regulations. Being on the planning board is not a feel-good meeting that you go to when you want to. In my opinion, for those members who attend regularly and have met many times a month for the past 9 months, it is an insult for other members to show up and, not having known what was discussed or worked on, just jump in and make a motion without any regard or question about what work has been done. Most people, when they come on a board, listen and learn for a while so that when they do make motions, they have conditions and findings with their motion, not just, that's what I want to do. And that was the case with the last motion made for Regina's rescue and also the moratorium. But you, the commissioners, are the ones who pick the people and also get rid of the people who have been on there and have experience. Last year, the commission passed a resolution that would force longtime members off of county boards. For the planning commission, it forced off people who were experienced, who considered both sides of the issues faced, and who were well aware of the need to make valid findings for their decisions. While I do believe that new people need to be put on the board when there are openings, they should agree to attend every meeting to the best of their ability and either go, to trainings or have the zoning director offer workshops for them. When I first started on the planning board, I attended workshops with the zoning director and on my own so that I would be knowledgeable about what I was doing. This is one of the board positions in the county that can easily get the county sued or in trouble if a board member does not understand their position. It is very difficult to get a good picture of what you are doing when you only attend every second or third meeting. Members of the Planning Commission need to have members who are objective, do not have their own agendas, and who try to look at the good, the bad, and then try to balance out what is the best for everyone in the county. That's what makes our county successful. It is very difficult to reach that balance, but it definitely cannot be reached when members do not take their jobs seriously because of either partisanship or a lack of respect for the experience of older adults. Previous Commissioner Rick James wanted to clean out all the boards in the county. When you did this this year with the planning board, you removed one of the people who was the most objective, the most concerned with the landowner's rights, and had a lot of knowledge of the county. Sometimes older people do have the experience and the wisdom that is necessary for difficult situations. In ending my concerns, I would like to challenge everyone in Linn County who does not feel there should be a moratorium. That doesn't mean they're for or against solar. Just if you don't feel like there should be a moratorium, because it could eventually end up with us not having the options, to call their commissioner and let them know. Hopefully the solar opponents will not be tying up their phones so that they will not return your phone calls. And also, I'd also like to challenge Jim Johnson to have his phone number put on the website so it's not just his friends that call him and other people can reach him too. So
My number's out there, Charlene.
it's not on the website.
Well, I don't.
And I've talked to you about it several times and you said, oh,
You haven't had any trouble getting hold of me?
that's because I called David. Not everybody in the county is going to call David and say, can I get his?
That's out there. If it's on the website, I guess it can be put on there because
So all you have to do is talk to Chris and I'll put it on there for you.
that's fine.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Charlene. All right, Sean.
You ready for me to speak on this or the burial permit?
The burial permit.
Made contact with David Love from Quest, and I'm going to have to apologize to each of you. Between he and I and his email and our conversations, I took it that he was going to have a representative here today and that he was presenting in his email, which I will give to you, Evergy's part of this or their answer to it. And what he's saying when I made contact with him was this was not an opportunity to provide Evergy's answer and give me contact information. It was to give me contact information to say that Evergy would prefer to answer these questions directly to you from their representative, not through a contractor. So this is the email provided. There is a contact on it. And I will be contacting Evergy's representative and asking to reschedule and have them brought here so that you can speak with them directly before making any decision on the permit.
So on this permit, did they get with you, Sean, and go over details and when they applied for it, did they give you? I've heard from some from people that, how can I put this? They were going to go across some people's land or something, then they were completely, none of their information was out. They had no idea who owned the land. They were confused.
I think I can answer that. Originally, when the engineering was sent with the permit request, I reviewed that, got in contact with the parties involved in the request of the permit and told them, you can't put poles in the right of way. You're going to have to move those out, re-engineer this, and move the poles out of the right of way. The county doesn't allow for that. They resubmitted a engineering plan, which is the one I have here today. They resubmitted an engineering plan with the poles removed from our right of way. I would later come to learn that the property owner, that they planned and engineered that the poles to be moved on, was unaware of that project and unaware that those poles were planned in that engineering plan to be on his property. I believe since then they've been in contact with one another and are working the issues out, but because I can only deal with the right of way, not request if you're on private property to see your easements and documents and review all those. I've told the property owner, I have no dog in this fight. I cannot be a party to that because that's a civil agreement between you and those parties. But yes, originally, the engineering plan that was sent to me and the plan that I have today is all contingent on whether or not they get the consent and the easements from the private property owner.
So is that something they should have before they even come back to us and request a permit? Because I feel like that falls back on us on protecting our citizens. I mean, I don't expect our citizens to
would-
go out and spend money on a lawyer to protect their own rights. I mean, we're telling them we can't be in our right of way. I just don't agree with that. I don't think,
I would have to defer to Gary as to whether or not the county would be involved in private property interest easements or any other thing. I do know that we do have control of what goes into our right of way, but what they do outside of our right of way, I don't, although we may be interested in it, I don't think we have influence in it.
This is an overhead line, right?
An overhead line.
So how do we protect ourselves then if we don't let them put it in our right of way? I mean, like, so how do we know what's going on?
Well, they come to us and they get a permit to cross our right of way.
Right.
And that permit spells out where it'll be and shows us the engineering. In this case, we required them to change the engineering so the poles were outside of us. Beyond that, we don't have any control. We don't have any control. I mean, if they crossed our right of way at one point and then took a 45-degree angle or, 110-degree angle, we got no control over any of that.
but do they portray it that we do and say that
No,
it just go across people's land?
no, they're not going to cross people's land without having an easement to cross it. They're going to have the legal right to do it.
I see Mark standing up here, and Mark, if I didn't want to say, I mean, you want to talk?
If you guys don't
You're
mind.
the landowner.
So I did talk to them, and it's not all overhead, so they're actually gonna bore out of the substation, which would go over onto my ground and then bore back out. And there's like a weird teardrop shape that is owned by KCP&L, and then they want to set poles on our property lines there. I think it was 4 or 5 of them, and then go up and then jump across 152. So there's some boring and then some overhead involved into this. They do not have any easements right now.
The boring on our land,
The boring would be the road crossing itself.
the road crossing, it's not going overhead, so they're boring under our.
Yes, it would be boring under.
Under our road or under the highway?
No, it'd be your guys' road, Young Road. They're gonna bore under Young and then go overhead over 152 or 2200 road. So that would be highway, I believe.
And you weren't spoke to about this at all?
No, not prior to last meeting is when I figured it all out. So I left here, talked to Sean, went to registers of deeds to make sure there was no right or easements. Went to mapping, went back to registers of deeds, ended up contacting somebody on the piece of paper. I think that one there, their design engineer that then reached out to their real estate team. So then they figured out that I actually owned land they thought KCP&L did. The other thing with that area right there, there's already like 3 sets of overhead lines right there. So I don't know, the course that they're actually taking is great for the county anyways. If you guys would look at it on an overhead of why they wouldn't consolidate instead of adding another whole set of lines through there.
You said they thought KCP&L owned your land, and they were.
Yeah, originally. And so they actually had to go back and pull the whole file. And that's when they came back and said, oh yeah, you do own that. And we got to figure out an easement.
And how'd you come about this?
I was here in this meeting.
Or did they? I mean, they weren't out there doing work on your land or nothing?
No. I just heard when you guys started talking about the substation and Young Road, I just knew I owned
land right across the road. And that's when I talked to Sean and figured out it was actually onto my ground.
We looked at the design drawing that you're looking at there, and he made me aware that when they shifted the poles, they shifted them onto his property.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know all the legal bouts about it, but I would just think permit wise, and I understand you don't have a dog in the fight, but you wouldn't issue a permit allowing them something that they don't have like right to do either.
Well, your
I don't know.
permit will be contingent on them being able to.
Okay. So
I mean,
yeah, that does make
if-
sense.
We would permit their crossing and our part of it. You obviously would be the second half of it. We couldn't permit someone to cross your ground.
Right.
So like, we wouldn't have been giving them the easement to be on your land.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
I just think
How do you
that,
not find that? in
I was just thinking permit wise, I guess maybe it's not done that way normally, but you'd think the county would protect its citizens by making sure they had easements, but I guess that doesn't happen.
Well, if we put ourselves in a position of making sure that anybody that comes on you has the right to be on you, think about all the possible permutations of where that could come into play.
I'm just
And,
thinking.
and of what liability we would have if we failed then in one of those cases.
Right.
Except
So
that-
I'm just thinking you're giving them a permit. And like I said, I don't understand this process. I'm learning politics real quick with you guys. So if you're giving them a permit to do the road crossing, which is an underground bore, more than likely they're going to sit outside of your guys' right of way. So you're giving them the permit to do it, but you don't even know if they should be where they're.
We're giving them a permit to do a crossing, and the only way they can do a crossing is if they've got a place to start from and a place to stop at. And if they don't have those, then the permit is basically moot.
Okay.
They've got to get to the point of where the crossing is. They just want to make sure they can get the crossing permit before they go to the trouble of, their thinking is, I'm not defending them, but their thinking is, if we go to the trouble of negotiating an easement across private land, and then we get to the point we don't have the permit to cross the road, we're screwed. And so they want to get the permit first. And that's the way it's normally done. They want to get the permit first and then make sure they've got the easement to get to it.
So normally they'd ask for the permit before an easement because
It-
from my understanding, I thought maybe that was the case. They just thought they owned across. They thought they owned my property.
Well, and it may be, they may have thought that, but at some point that they would have learned that they didn't. I mean, they obviously learned it when you contacted them.
Right.
But the point is, our permitting doesn't have anything to do with what they can do on private property at all. And we're not in a position to make that call. We're not in a position to try to regulate.
And we're not checking easements on any of these crossings or projects because.
We're not checking easements on private land. Right?
Correct.
Because that's not our role.
Right.
But it's our role. I feel like it's our role to take care of our citizens. Like, unless Mark would have really, did his
Well,
homework.
maybe-
I mean, they
maybe-
come in and just jump on your land, and we're saying here, we're pretty much giving you access to do it. And then, I mean, he didn't invite him over there. Now he
We
has to
did
get a
never
lawyer
say.
to fight.
All he has to do is refuse to grant an easement to him.
And
I
then we get-
understand that. I understand that.
But we
concept.
didn't tell them they could get on his land.
But I understand that, but we gave him a path.
Now, the fact is, they have certain powers under state statute that if he refuses to grant them an easement, they may be able to condemn an easement.
Right.
And so they have, this is not like just any,
So say he
Private
has
act-
no money in the world, and then we allow them a path to get to his house. Now they want to take him to court. Now he has to pay for a lawyer. I feel like, you guys don't feel like that's our spot to help not let that happen?
I don't follow, I really don't follow your logic in this, Danny.
How do you? So we're giving him access clear up to his.
We're not giving them access to anything. We're just saying you can cross this road.
We have to okay their plan, do we not?
We have to okay
To make-
where they're gonna cross the road and how they're gonna do it. That's all we regulate is the crossing of our right of way. That's all. And if they can't,
I guess I got.
We're not
rules
looking at
nobody else
everybody's
does. I don't
lease,
understand. I
yeah.
guess.
Everybody's lease, rental agreements, anything that way, right? In regards to their land, they're able to make whatever decisions they want to do with their land, whether they have a lawyer or not, right?
Yep.
It's the same way with the easements. It's up to them to grant easements on their property. to allow people on or off. That's not our role.
I guess that's just the world of politics, and I'm not in that world, so.
So I'm not, I'm
I
not
just don't
super
agree-
worried
I don't
about
agree
this.
with it.
I'm not super worried about this and myself, I'm a big boy, I can fight my own battles with it. But I do think it is weird moving forward, like in the future, that you guys are giving someone permission to either above or ground or below do a road crossing, but then you're saying they can't be within your easement. So you know you're pushing them to the landowner. So it's just something to be thought of, in my opinion.
Well, it's burials they can do in our easement. They just can't put a pole in our easement because it creates a safety hazard.
Well, just like that, if we was to have somebody bore our road, can we make sure in a permit that the pit on each side isn't on our right of way to where we could state it that way, to where if they're going to bore our road, make sure they get out of our right of way with their pit. Then they can't go bore our road without having their,
They'd have to have an easement.
they'd have to have an easement on both sides of it. Then if we stated that they do not put their bore pit in our right of way.
I think we could change our regulations to do that, yeah.
Then we don't have to worry about it then. Because if they don't have the right of way, if they don't have the right of way on either side, they can't cross our road. As long as we don't let them put the bore pit on our property.
We would just be permitting the boring under.
Under our road and not letting the pit be in our right of way.
I think we could make our regulations reasonable. I don't think they do now.
Worry about them being in the right of way, right?
What's that?
I mean,
I said it'd make your guys' job easier in the future, not have to worry about the ditch being in the right of way anyways, as far as road maintenance, ditch maintenance, or anything.
Definitely.
I mean, it's a little bit more of a hassle to the landowner himself, but they're paying for that hassle too. They're not paying you.
Well, they're most likely going to case it anyway, if you bore it anyway, whether it's be a water line or what, it's going to take a little bit more casing. I mean, they just stick the water.
maybe a little deeper bore to get under the ditch if they were.
But it saves us.
Yeah, again, it's to our benefit.
I don't have a problem with putting that in the permit.
I mean, we can give them, go ahead and give them the right of way, give them our right of way to bore our road, but they have to have the easement on both sides before they could ever bore our road.
I mean, that would just be making boring consistent with how we're doing.
Everything else, where we don't want things in our right of way.
Yep. Now, we sometimes have lines that follow our right of way rather than go across our right of way, if you follow me there.
But if you notice the state, a lot of places they do that, they don't put it in the right of way.
They make
put
them get off
they
in the
make them
private
get an
property.
easement on the ground if you'll follow that. I mean, I just drive roads and see that.
Yeah.
I don't think the state allows them to get in the right of way like we do.
That may be, I don't know the ins and outs.
I don't either. I just looking, driving the roads. There are poles in the state right of way in different places, but I don't know, like 4-lane roads.
But typically it's their poles.
Well, it's huge poles sometimes in it, but I'd say they have to get it's a little bit different than what we just allow people, just like what we did on the county line. They went back in and moved.
Right.
So typically on something like that, if we don't grant them right away or poles in our right away, the landowner doesn't grant them access to their land to put poles on it, what happens? They sue the landowner?
I would say that if they choose to stay in that location, then they may file a condemnation action.
And that's what I'm saying. That's not, I don't agree with that. I feel like that it's our responsibility to, I'm here for the people.
Eminent domain will stop that. I mean, they do that.
It's called eminent domain, and there are limited eminent domain rights for utility companies. You know, they don't have as broad eminent domain right as a government, but they do have some. And I'm not an expert on that, and so I can't tell you exactly what would happen in this case, or if this company even could turn to that route. But I know that does happen, so.
But like in this instance, our role was to allow them or to make sure that they weren't putting anything in our
right of way that they couldn't, that we didn't allow it.
correct. Beyond that, it's their role and the owner's role to enter into any agreements beyond.
As a point of clarification, I assume, but I would like your clarification on it, that you want me to contact the Evergy contact, work with that contact, and set up another appointment for them to come here.
I think they should double check their facts because they don't even know what land they're working on. I mean, that's just me. Their plan's not legit. I mean, they're going across a landowner that they thought was somebody else. I mean, do we not have programs in the county that tells us who owns what land?
And we've got mapping that identifies landowners or property owners. But if you're wanting the questions that were originally posed answered, what I'm being told is I need to contact and go through Evergy instead of the contractor. And if you want them to come in, I will make contact with them and schedule them at the earliest convenience.
What do you guys feel? What do you want?
What are they going to tell us? What do we need to know?
I guess they're just going to tell us, you guys are going to do what we want. That's what we do around here. I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, their plan's not even legit. They're out on his property thinking it's KCP&L.
Can we state in our borough permit that the pit can't be on us? Or pit? Can it be changed now on this one to where we say?
It's my understanding that this is not a bore under us.
On one road, it's a bore. On one road, it's an overhead.
I see.
So it's more
2200's an overhead, Young Road's a bore.
2200 to state highway though, right? That's not.
Not there.
It's state highway as it goes to Lacine, but it's
Not past the power plant.
That's not our, that's our road.
That's our road.
It's our road.
It's one of our- Yeah.
Across the dam is our road.
We can sure look at that and see.
It's just across the dam or is the whole road? I thought just the dam was, the dam road was the rest of it.
The whole road's ours. The dam part is actually,
Because 152 ends at 69, old
Right.
69.
right. So it's a county road from there on,
Oh, wow.
although the power plant owns the part of the road that crosses the dam. It's kind of complicated, but
Do we not overlay that?
we control it, but they pay for all the work that's done on it. It's like having a county road on somebody's private property. As opposed to having a county road on a traditional road right away. They own the dam and therefore
'Cause
they,
we don't
they,
own the
they
dam.
allow us to have a road on it, but because they own the dam, they control how we repair it. They usually pay for it. We can look at the, what it would take to put that language in this current permit, Jim.
So what do we need in here?
just direction as to whether or not I'm inviting the Evergy contact to one of our next meetings.
I mean, yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I would like to hear from him. Jason?
I think we should approve the burial permit, subject to Jim's concerns.
The distinction, I don't mean to butt in there, the distinction between the two is our justification for not letting them put the poles in the right of way is safety. With a burial pit, we don't have that issue. There's nothing sticking up in the right of way. And so there is a logical distinction there that might be a problem. I don't know, but I would think about that.
So we need a motion on that, or what do we need on it?
If you're going to approve the permit, then you'll need a motion to do so.
I'm not in favor of.
If you're gonna wait until you talk with them, then your choice.
What do you think, Jim?
I'd personally like to see if we're gonna do it just to protect to make sure they have the right of way. And we're not asking them to, just make the burial or the bore pit on their property. And then we're not getting in their game. And we're still letting them cross the road.
I'm
'Cause
fine with that.
If they don't have the right of way, it stops the crossing.
So let me see if I understand what you're saying. Suggesting that we go back and say, re-engineer this part with the burial to put the bore pits outside of our right.
Put the bore pits outside our right of way and then.
And then if they want to come in and discuss that, they can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that.
Well, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
What's your motion?
That their bore pit, if they're gonna cross our road with the underground crossing, that their bore pits are on the outside of our right of way. So they'll have to have a right of way bought from the landowner on each side.
David, you had a.
Oh, I'm just trying to figure out how to put that in the form of a motion because it's not.
So are we allowing them, do we need them to come and talk to us about
The
that?
motion would be to send the permit back to them and ask them to re-engineer the burial portion so that the bore pits are outside of our right of way.
Is that
So
okay?
Okay, and I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Or you got something?
I'm just gonna talk about that picture real quick. I can show you guys something.
This?
Okay. So, like I said, learning all this, I'm new. But, and I know you guys can only be so involved. Everybody's always busy and everything else because you're.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this is my ground here. This is all their ground. They actually own this teardrop, which is a really weird piece. And then they already have easements on this side of the road. So technically they can come right out and do one bore and be on their own piece. So currently there's lines here, and then this line. So what they're kind of want to do just makes a lot of overhead that's in the county anyway. So on this, is there no like future planning with you guys? Like, am I being unreasonable to say that? I'm not trying to be, but I'm just thinking if they already have line set here, here, and here, and they want to add a fourth line set, they could just come out and go over to their line set and go.
And the way to make them do that is for you to refuse to give them an easement.
Well, I mean, I don't think the easement's gonna be that big of a deal, because I think if I say no, like I said, they've got their own land to be able to come out and do it. I'm just saying future development of the county, not, even if this wasn't my piece of ground, if you already have 4 overline headsets here, why would you want them to add a fifth when they can just add on to one of their own possibly? Is there no kind of, I guess, planning?
Policy?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
That's not, I mean, we're not running their business.
Understood, but it is our county.
But it's just like what I say is they're gonna do what's easiest for them, is what I believe is, as long as we allow them to put a pole on us, they're gonna put a pole on us. I mean, because.
I agree with that statement, Jim.
Because it doesn't take, they don't have to go by right away. We give them one permit to go clear across their county, and we did it. So,
Just a thought of like future development of the county and even on multiple different projects where if they can consolidate their overhead lines to one set of poles or minimalize, it's just a lot better.
and I realize
You guys can't change everything.
we have a lot of stuff in our right of way, but I'll tell you what, if we don't stop putting stuff in our right of way, it just creates us trouble on down the road. Because, I mean, I worked for a pipeline for a long time and we'd design things. And then 10 years from now, you're back in there digging up where you put it and it was a bad decision.
You know, you get oversized loads come through, then it's just more crossings than
Right.
one of them. It just seems a little funky to put so much in one area. I didn't know in any way you guys felt that.
I just think the less we put in our right of way, less activity we have in our right of way, we're better off we're going to be as this county.
I can agree with that.
All right, we got a motion on the floor. We got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries 2-1. I feel like that we need to not have more control, but have more knowing of what's going on in our county. It's like that I would get phone calls from individuals else in the county and they're like, we didn't know about that. Well, that's not very, do you not get phone calls like that?
I do.
How do you feel about it? That it's happening right underneath your nose, you know nothing about it. I think about it.
I don't really, I mean, I guess I don't look at it as my nose. You know, I'm trying to, yeah, well, but I mean, I'm
We
just,
can go back to just like this situation here with this burial, where they're burying and their permit ran out. It's kind of like what we did at the landfill. We had open dumping rights. And we took care of that. We got it down to where we narrowed it down to where if I got a permit to dump a house off my property, it was open, never was closed out. Down there, so a year from now, I might decide I want to tear the second building down. Not that I would, but it was open for me to go do that. And that's just like this here. We didn't close the permit out.
okay.
We ought to be going back and making sure this job's complete somehow. You know, whether it pops up on a screen when the date comes, you know, that the end of their burial permit was in September, I think is what you said, right?
Correct.
So that ought to pop up somewhere that the job's not finished, or call and make sure it's finished.
I just don't feel like
I look at it, Danny, that, you know, we have certain things that we're supposed to be doing. And we need to be doing those things.
okay, well, let me ask you this, what's your number one priority in the county? As in the people, protecting the people? Because that's mine. They're the ones that got me here. And I feel like that if we allow a burial permit, and then we deny them access within our burial permit, and they have to go across Mark's Lane, let's say, then he's like, hell no. Well, then we're putting everything on him. Like, you know, you're on your own, buddy. Sorry, we're coming no matter what. I feel like that's wrong of us to do that. You know, he's got to use money that he didn't budget this year to fight a company that's going to just probably take it anyway. And we allowed that to happen to him. Do you not feel that way?
No, I don't.
I don't understand how you don't, though. Are we not the only ones in the county that can stop that from happening to him?
I'm telling you that we don't control his land
I understand that.
and stuff that way. So all we're doing is controlling what we can control, which is our right of way.
Right, and then everybody else is on their own, regardless of
Yes.
what their plan is. I don't agree with that.
It comes back to, we're not approving his lease agreement with his renters or anything that way.
No, I agree with that, but this is,
It's his land. He can make the decisions that he needs to make in regards to that.
but this was a decision that he has to make because of us allowing another company that.
No, because we're just following our county policy.
Well, our county policy is broke. I'm sorry. I mean, we've talked about it for 2
Then
weeks.
fix it.
I got notes, says policy, big letters right here. That's what I'm saying. We got to redo it.
It's fine. I don't have a problem with revisiting it.
All right. You got your motion 2-1.
Okay, and by that motion, I'll work with the Evergy contact. Tell him that the holes for the bores will be out of the right of way or engineered to be out of the right of way, and that we won't be revisiting the permit until that process is complete.
Okay.
Okay.
Could we put something in each burial permit that their deadline is that they must notify us? Can we go back and do that?
We'll look at what the wording of our regulations is, but I think we can, yeah.
To where then if they don't finish by their date,
Yeah.
that we're gonna charge them an extension or?
That rather than an extension, they'd have to apply for a new permit.
Right. That would be good.
Can we put some repercussions on the end of it so that they actually follow it? Because
That
that's
would
what I
be
feel like.
having to apply for a new permit means they have to pay another fee.
But if they don't, but that's what I'm confused about. Like, if you're telling me that, and I'm like, well, hell, you don't got to pay no damage fees at the end of it, then why go do it? I feel like
I didn't hear when you looked away, I couldn't.
Why go apply for a permit if there's no repercussions at the end of it that's going to affect me anyway?
I mean, if you don't complete it within the time, what he's suggesting is then
You just go back.
your permit expires and they have to come in and get a
You
new
have to
permit.
buy another permit.
I understand how that works, but if you don't do that process, is there a fine you pay?
No.
Then why would I even do that?
Well, you mean if you don't get a permit at all?
Yeah, if you run out on your permit time,
If you
and you
could,
just continue to work.
well, if they would be in violation of county codes then.
Okay, so what's a fine on something like that?
It could be $500 a day. I mean, it could be.
So do we have a policy on that? How do we determine what the,
Again, I'll have to look at exactly what the regulations say, but I'm sure that they say that any violation is a per day violation, and violation is typically those kind of things are up to $500 a day.
so you wanted what added in it, Jim?
Just that they'll have to reapply for another permit if their deadline's up and they're not finished with the job.
So David, what is your motion? Was it?
Well, that motion's already passed.
You have to send it back to the applicant and ask them to re-engineer the project with the bore pits outside of the right of way.
This other business would be added when you'd actually approve the permit.
Okay.
You would add,
And you're talking about policy changes.
Talking about
at this
change-
point, So I think you want to have Gary
Revisit
review
the
the current
policy.
policy, Sean review, and really look at it before you just make a motion to change something.
right. We'll need to get the wording on the policy and
All right, Sean, you got anything else?
The only thing else I had addressed Darren and staff as far as over the last week and during this process. I believe we've had a lot of productive conversations, and I've enjoyed reaching out and speaking with parties on both sides of this. I'm somewhat involved in it as a supervisor, but not as directly involved as Darren is with these things. Going forward, in an effort to move this along, I guess I'll form it in the form of a request from the commission. I would like a clear pathway. So I, as a supervisor, I can work with Darren, knowing what our objectives and our goals are, and how we achieve that pathway. So if there's a list of questions that you would like answered, we can obtain those answers. I guess I'm asking you to narrow the project for Darren in order to make sure that we get the scope of this done, because if we're going to accomplish this in the timeline, I'd like obtainable goals, clearly defined obtainable goals, because that is some of the frustration that we deal with daily in the task, is the overwhelmingness of a large project without clearly defined steps that we're taking. And I understand this is a process that none of us have come to before or had to deal with, and it's been very frustrating for everybody. But I think our objective is to complete a product and do it timely, that all of us can at least agree that it defines the steps going forward, and it makes this process something that if we at least all don't agree on, that we all get input on, and that our input is weighed and heard by committees before it's brought to you as a commission for approval. So I guess what I'm asking you for that part of it is to please clearly define the objectives for Darren going forward, so that we can give you the results that you're looking for. The second half of what I have to request, again, I'll form in the form of a request, is I've enjoyed conversation with a lot of different parties and hearing different perspectives. And I've learned a lot since I've taken this job. It is completely out of my wheelhouse, and I've enjoyed it greatly. The most frustrating thing in this process for me as a supervisor is to have people working with me and for me that work diligently on projects and try to professionally complete them, only to be frustrated by misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and at times blatant allegations without an understanding of those things. So what I guess I'm asking you is to quicken the process and to keep the process moving forward for everyone involved that wants to see this process completed and an end project done. As we run into those miscommunications, I'm going to call them, or allegations of misconduct, or as my staff runs into hurdles that they've dealt with time and time again, I'm going to ask that you affirm and set forth an understanding that when they run into obstacles that they can't deal with as a supervisor, as a regular business habit, I would take on those requests and I would take on those projects and I'll handle them. That way it doesn't become personal, because this is very heated. It's a very personal issue to a lot of people, but it's also personal when you challenge someone's work ethic. So I would like the understanding that when we run into those misunderstandings on the daily basis, I believe you putting me in the supervisory role that you have, we already have that understanding, but I'd like that understanding here today, that with the premise that I will complete any request and do it as timely as I can, given my schedule, that if we run into those impasses, that I be allowed to move in and try to facilitate those and to take on those issues myself personally.
I think our goal for that committee is to, start at the very, very, very beginning, name people that are going to be involved, their tasks, their roles, what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. Just spell it all out. I think that's kind of what you're wanting.
Yes,
I
clearly.
think that's kind of where we're going to start. In my opinion, we obviously haven't talked about it, but we're going to talk about it today. But that's what I'm envisioning, is starting at square one.
What committee you talking on, I guess?
Zoning regs thing we're talking about?
Yes.
The zoning regs for this committee we're coming up with.
Why do we not send it back just to the planning and zoning and let them work through this issue? We already have the committee, is what I'm saying. Why do we need another committee?
We don't have a committee for that.
For what you talking? What do you mean? We got a planning and
Oh
zoning?
yeah, we have the planning and zoning, but you're talking about the solar reg. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about defining a path forward, because I believe at a previous meeting, Commissioner Johnson asked the group to work through Darren to get those questions built up and to get those answers and bring them to the Planning and Zoning Committee. I'm not telling you what the pathway to that is. I'm asking you to define those questions, to give us a set of goals that I can look over with Darren and say that we've accomplished what you've asked us to accomplish. The other half of that during this process, between staff members that have worked on this project and supervised these projects, between Darren and Jessica, miscommunications between parties and misunderstandings have created suggestions of improprieties or misunderstandings that get very frustrating and waste time away from that project. It wastes time in everyone's regard in trying to stay focused on the end goal. So when we run into those impasses and we have a misunderstanding, or we have someone that makes an allegation of impropriety without understanding it, I want you to understand it is my intention to step in that process and deal with those people directly. That way the staff can continue with their mission and goal, which is what I'm asking you to define. I'm just trying to push us forward without beating the rails off the machine or the people that are trying to do this work for you.
I agree.
I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
All right, Darren.
Darren Wilson, Planning and Zoning Director. I sent you guys had David send you guys a recommendation of a committee. My thoughts on how to put that together, and I'm here for your guidance.
You want to just kind of speak on what, so everyone's on the same page, kind of what you're,
So my recommendation to you guys was a committee of 2 planning and zoning members, one that voted yes for the moratorium, one that voted no for the moratorium, 2 people that are against solar, and 2 people that are for solar, and 1 neutral person. And I don't know how you determine that neutral person.
What are we trying to achieve? What is our goal through this?
you're putting together a committee?
I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to talk about. We need to define objectives and goals and.
You know, when I made the motion to when I seconded Jim's motion to send it back to planning and zoning, you know, I was expecting planning and zoning to hear the concerns of the people, tell me how the zoning regs address those concerns or what holes we had in those zoning regs, and then make a recommendation back to us on whether or not we needed to rewrite the zoning regs or not. That hasn't happened.
Well, I believe that the Planning and Zoning Board told us that, I mean, by their vote anyway, is why I feel that they're not comfortable with where they're at with it.
Right,
That they'd like.
but they didn't look at any of it.
I mean, they didn't look at any of it.
They heard the comments and stuff that way. I mean, that they never had a meeting to discuss those things. Have they looked at how those concerns are addressed in the zoning regs that we approved?
Well, I would say they have, because a lot of them was involved in it. The biggest majority of them was involved in writing.
Not to interrupt, Planning and Zoning has not had a workshop since the public forum to go over any of the concerns or any of that, to compare it to the regulations to see if there is holes in it.
Well, I think that's what we need to do, is to let Planning and Zoning give them some time to work through what we've got here and let them listen to the people. You know, as far as the people of Linn County, I don't think we need to be listening to the solar people. I don't think we need to be listening to the attorneys we bought. I mean, we need to take care of, Linn County is the one that our planning and zoning regulations is for.
Well, and that's what I made my motion on the moratorium was, you know, I agree we need to slow it down, but we need to put a committee together to give all the findings to the planning and zoning, because I feel like the planning and zoning is, I mean, they have enough on their hands. It's a volunteer committee that.
I just feel that we're just making another board, and I don't think we need to make another board. I think we have our board there, the Planning and Zoning Board, and let them talk to the people. Now, I'm not saying you drag this thing on, but let them talk to them. And then let them decide.
So now we don't want a committee? We don't want somebody to.
I'm not for another committee. I think we have the committee.
And I'm torn between the two. You know, I would like for planning and zoning to continue the process that we started. You know, you said that they wrote the zoning regs, Jim.
They did.
You know, it's up to them to understand the zoning regs as well.
They was involved in it, I'll say, but I don't think we need to make another committee to go over it. I think we have our committee, let them talk to the people. I mean, if we set up and have a meeting to where the people come, I'm not saying we need the solar companies, we don't need everybody else. We need the people in Linn County here to talk about what we're gonna put in our zoning regulations. Cause that's what.
Public hearings, things like that.
So is that everything you guys are going to man? Because that's my point. Is this committee was pull town hall meetings, get everyone's concerns, and not we don't really do nothing, and they come back to the planning and zoning and throw out their ideas.
What was the meeting that we already had? When the open forum, when they came and presented their concerns.
Out of which the moratorium vote came.
Right.
What,
You mean
you know,
that they pushed for all
Yes.
the no people to come there?
Yes.
So what I'm trying to do is get the neutral people, the yes people, and the no people all together to work together, get everyone's concerns, then bring back their findings to the planning and zoning. Richard, do you guys have time, Charlene, do you guys have time to do what you think we want on these regulations to find out all the findings? And
Do we know what we want?
no, we don't, but we don't know what the people want.
Breaking on except myself, but I will tell you, writing the code that we now have, we were up here sometimes 3 and 4 hours a night, sometimes 3 nights a week. Now, you're asking, can we do the work? Damn right we can do it.
I know you can, but
I mean, what I thought would happen after that, what we had before, is that all those concerns would be brought back to the planning. They would be gone over each one to see how that fits in the regulation and how the regulation takes care of that. That's what I thought.
we were brought back the opinion from the planning and zoning to put a moratorium. That was the only thing that was presented back to us. So that's what we answered on. Now I'm trying to figure out how we move forward. Now that we denied it, how do we move forward? How do we get everyone's input? I mean,
Danny, will you allow Brandon to speak?
yeah, sure. Can you say your name and who you're with? And
I think that we can come up with a plan together.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Barry Matchett. I'm with Clearway Energy, and appreciate the opportunity to come in and visit with y'all. Maybe before I start on the I think there's Scrivener's error in the minutes in the last meeting, maybe for the clerk. It says here that an attorney from representing Clearway spoke at the last meeting. That was actually, I think, from EDA.
I think I already corrected.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, I just wanted to. So I think, we're navigating this in real time, right? And so when, Chairman, you suggested that there be I've come to think of it as an ad hoc solar committee, and to be assembled to deal with what this stuff is looking like for the community, that made a lot of sense to us, right? And I appreciate the planning and zoning board members. I think Chairman Merrill, you spoke very eloquently on the comprehensive plan, and I think Ms. Sims, your point that I really resonated with, just because part of my job is to work with state legislatures, is it is a very real concern that you articulated that the Kansas legislature is going to take local control away. That bill is 100% being written in various places, and whether it's by Evergy or by a whole variety of folks, that bill is definitely going to be introduced in the next legislative session, and that'll remove counties' ability to navigate this stuff on their own. And so I appreciate the way you guys have handled this, and one of the reasons we want to come here is because we think Linn County is pretty fabulous. So I'll just say, for Clearway's perspective, we will come as frequently as you wish to any forum that you assemble. And Allie and I were visiting and appreciate that many of you have come to the open houses that we hosted to talk about the project that we'd like to build. We will be here as frequently as you need us. We will answer any question that you need. I'm struck by the debate around the right-of-way, Mr. Briggs's property, a moment ago. That's not how we handle public relations and how we handle the public when we go in to try to develop something. We go and we listen and we listen and we listen. And we will do that here. I think the proposal you had and what Darren proposed is perfectly fine with us. If that same process were to reside at P&Z, and that means that we meet every other week, we're happy to do it. We'll be here. It's really our obligation to do that, is the way that we look at it. If we're not here, then we're just some outsider coming in and trying to tell you how to run your county. That ain't the way that we do it. If we want to come to your county, we need to be a guest. and we are guests. We hope to be longtime members of the community as business. So, Chairman, if you guys want to assemble a committee that's the ad hoc solar committee that ultimately reports to P&Z or reports directly to you, and then you remand to P&Z changes, we will participate in any forum you assemble, and we'll do it with goodwill and in good faith. So that's all I wanted to say. Appreciate, and you know, as I said, Ally and I were talking. I think you feel good about the opportunity to visit on a regular basis, transparent, public, open meetings. We'll do whatever you ask us to. We're interested in coming, but that requires clearly more work to make the community comfortable. So we're willing to do that. So thank you. I won't take up any more of your time.
Thank you. Yeah. I made the comment about, the no's, like, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but I want to get both sides of it and a neutral party. And that's what I feel like the committee should be put together to do that. And I don't feel like that should fall on our planning and zoning people. But I don't know. How do we do it? I don't know. That's what I thought we were working on today and how we were going to formulate that. But I don't know where we're at on it now. So how do you guys feel about it?
So, not to interrupt, I apologize. I've got 2 hours of video and recorded public forum that I've went through. People that are against, people that doesn't have an opinion, people that are for. And I think that there was enough addressed in that meeting, and I'm sure things come up as people think and time goes on, but I think there's enough in that to start. Because my question to you is that we've got regulations that are in place that was voted for, that was adopted. Shouldn't we take the complaints and see if the regulations that we have will withstand the test? And if we find that they don't stand the test, then we start looking at other counties on how some of that was written to add to ours or other opinions. But I think that we start with what we have and put it to the test.
And isn't that going to be best suited at planning and zoning since that's what they do anyway?
Well, they know the regulations. They helped write them. Now, if we add a couple of people, if we have meetings with the planning and zoning and add a couple of people that are against this, not to the board, but invite those couple of people to the meetings, a couple of people that are for. As far as a neutral party, which I don't want to vote, it's my job just to enforce the regulations. But as a neutral party, I'm the most neutral person there is, whether that's here nor there, but I have to take every aspect of a conditional use permit application and apply it to a staff report of facts to best suit the county. And I think I've proven that with Regina's rescue. I mean, there's so much that isn't in the regulations that can be added as conditions to a conditional use permit to benefit the neighbors of something. And I take that stuff into consideration, and I take my job pretty serious. And I put recommendations to planning and zoning that a building needs to be built, sanitation needs to be built, certain fencing needs to be put in. None of that is in the regulations. Well, fencing is, but nothing says that that particular conditional use permit has to have a building. But I listen to the people that say no to things, and I also listen to people that say yes to things, and I listen to the person that's making the application, and I try to take the three and put it into a staff report that best suits the county per the regulations. So personally, I don't care if it's planning and zoning or a committee put together, but ultimately it's going to be sent back to planning and zoning, and my work will be the committee and planning and zoning. And it makes no difference to me.
I feel like we have to have this committee because if we don't, that I just don't understand. I just don't know how we would get all the information to the planning and zoning without having meetings like we did their last meeting. I feel like that we have to have an organized committee to bring the concerns and everything back to them, and they can bring it to us. I mean, I think that the committee should do a lot of stuff. I mean, it's going to be, I think, in my, my mind, whenever I voted for the moratorium was, I mean, I guess I had something different than, I mean, kind of on what you were thinking, but I guess different from Jim and what Jason were thinking. So what do you guys, how do you guys feel? What do you think?
Oh, I said what I think. I think we need to send it back to the planning and zoning and let them work through it.
So each time there's a question or concern, we write it down, we send it back to them and wait a month to present it to them, and then they come back with findings, and then we make another decision.
If they sit down and have a meeting, one meeting or two meetings, whatever it is, and then let the planning and zoning work through this deal.
Well, and like I said, I've got 2 hours of stuff that I can go through, whether it's one meeting or 5 meetings. I can steer those meetings and set those meetings up as workshops to move forward. And I mean, I would like to have all 9 members there. I would like to have 2 people that are against there. If we can find 2 people that are for there, just for conversation, because you get into situations where you're going through something and they may have a meaning for something that they said that's not understood. And so it might be hard for planning and zoning to understand what that meaning was, and they should have the right to explain why. Same as somebody from the for side. And I'm okay with, like I said, and it's ultimately your guys' decision, but the 9-member board, and then add 4 people each side, and just sit down in this room and have a discussion about it.
So what you're kind of talking about is really a combination of both approaches.
You're just saying representation
Right.
from each side, not another board. Actually, you're
Right.
asking for 4 representation.
Yes.
From each side to come to a meeting and sit down with the,
Say, refer it back to planning and zoning with the task to go through all the information that has been compiled so far, tested against the regulations, but urge them to invite representatives of different perspectives to come in and participate in that process with them.
Yes.
And the reason we're looking at having only a few representatives for each side is so that we can hear things out.
It lessens the distraction during the conversation.
Okay.
I
They
understand.
are.
I understand.
Open
And
meetings
it
in the
would-
sense of being.
It would be up to the chairman of planning and zoning to control that meeting.
it'd be an open meeting to where people could come, but you're gonna have, each side's gonna have 2 or 3, whatever you decide to speak.
Right.
You're saying
Right.
representation.
And if it's Ally or any of them and they want to speak, it's not a fact of you got to be on the agenda or you got to have permission to speak. They'll be part of the conversation.
And
Just I did it the first time though, because in July, there was talk from the commissioners, like, well, you hadn't been a part of the process this whole entire time.
So the first time was done by state statute. So it was a public hearing, whether people came to the public hearing or not. And then planning and zoning took a vote. It's my job to take that recommendation to the commissioners. The commissioners did not accept the recommendation. They wanted changes made. So they sent it back. We went through workshops with the person that helped us write this. And then another vote was taken and we took it back to them and they
adopted.
But not a lot of
adopted.
public input.
We had a hearing.
The one here.
which
Yeah,
was required.
and that's all that's required. Right.
But what I think you're talking about is actually naming some people to be what they call ex officio members of this board. They would
Yes.
they would have an active role in the process, but they wouldn't be formal members of the
And
board.
they wouldn't be voting.
They wouldn't be voting, but they would be ex officio members there so that it's clear who's going to talk and who's not. So you don't have 50 people trying to talk, but you've got some representatives from both perspectives or all perspectives there as ex officio members.
So we could work through a few meetings set up like this and see where we get.
Exactly. And if that doesn't work, come back and we'll restructure
And
it
if we
again.
come back in 2 or 3 meetings and see that this isn't working, we may have to change something.
And after each, whether it's 2 a week, 1 a week, I'll come in the following Monday and report back progress or things that was discussed. And I believe that we should have somebody from the industry, not saying that he's what Gary called him, but a person that we can ask questions of.
They're gonna alleviate a few questions, right off the bat. Yeah, I agree with that.
Right.
I do too.
So now we all do agree on a committee.
Pardon?
So we do all agree on,
Agree on sending it back to planning and zoning, have them function in this role with adding some ex officio members to make up the full.
So the pros are gonna come up with 3 or so, is that
I would like to just see it at 2.
2, and then
And the pros would have 2, the cons would have 2, and then we would have a representative from the industry, not to speak, but to speak if questions
To
arise.
be a resource.
Yes.
so this is only gonna be only a planning and zoning public meeting.
It will be a planning and zoning meeting, which are always public,
It will,
but it would not be a public hearing. It would be a meeting in the public with some specific members of the public assigned to be ex officio members of the committee so they could participate in the discussion.
So if they decide through this process that they want to change certain things in the zoning regulations, at that time,
We start
we'll
the
have
process.
to have a hearing and do the same things that we did the first time.
planning and zoning
Yeah.
will have to decide
And
if
it-
they want.
Right, planning and zoning.
Right.
The goal of this is for planning and zoning to say either,
They don't like what they.
they'll either say, we like these regulations the way they are, or we want these changes. And if they decide that's where they are, then they propose them formally in the whole process, in which notices are sent out, a public hearing is then held on those changes. And we go through that process then, just like when we first adopted it.
and if you're thinking about making this motion, make it a public workshop. There can be, and correct me if I'm wrong, they can come to consensus, but they cannot take a vote. The vote would be held until one of our regular meetings.
Richard, you good with this?
Very good with it.
Okay.
We'll find the common ground where we can all stand.
I think it meets everybody's requirements, Danny. It's meeting your requirements, I think, too. It's getting everybody involved.
But so we're only gonna do once a month, and if they would.
Not necessarily.
No, they can.
That'll be up to them.
Whatever planning and zoning decides, if they want to meet 3 nights a week, they can, I guess, if that's what you choose to do, right?
Yes.
You're just assigning to them. You said, when you have got your mind made up on whether you want changes or not, bring it back to us. Because you guys don't want and shouldn't be in the middle of that process.
So I don't think we need to be.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make that motion that we,
You want me to say it?
you said.
We want a content expert.
The ex officio, among the ex officio members would be a content expert from the industry.
That's my motion.
Well said. Well said, Jim. I'll second that motion.
Motion been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Figure all that out.
You got it all right, right?
I have a recording.
Anything else?
I don't have anything.
Thank you, Darren.
It says lunch, so you gotta provide lunch.
I do? If you're done with me, I'm leaving. Thank you.
Our agenda says we're going to adjourn by 12.
Yeah,
Yeah, we didn't make it.
on overtime.
So I go under time all the time, so I go for it.
I'll only take a second. I believe, and I'll let each one of you know, I believe that completes what I asked for. Even though it took a while to get there and to spell it out, that's clear enough that Darren and I can work to accomplish that goal, and I can help him through that process. So as far as the question I ask of you, I appreciate the content and the effort on it, and we will work towards it.
Anything else?
I don't have anything.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
I'll say.
Motion to move and second, all in favor?
Aye.
You know what I'm doing at the hotel? Listening to this and trying to retype a bunch of stuff.